Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little bit in a better mood after after that nightmarish of a weekend. That's the reason why I'm clean shaven right now. Unfortunately, the Rangers had eliminated from the playoffs after that disappointment of a loss in the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, right now doing in a good move right now. The Mets are up 9-0, which is like rare. Just hope the bullpen doesn't blow it, because I swear it's living up to that meme I posted. I can't keep calm. I'm a Mets fan, and the funny thing is that a tweet like that I was posting like that. Roger Clark from New York One News liked that post.
That's pretty funny. Shout out to Roger Clark and New York One News for giving you a like there. That's pretty cool. But yeah, man, I don't blame you, especially with the way this bullpen has been lately. You would think that every game would be decided by one run or everything like that with the way things have been going. Obviously, the Mets had a nice lead on Monday, ended up getting whittled down to one run, and it was 8-7 when the game finally went final. Mets ended up pulling out a win there. Yesterday was a 6-3 win, their first victory. What's it called? It was their first non-one-run victory in about a month. So it had been a long, long time for our New York Mets, and especially today. They go the blowout. This is what they should be doing against a team like the Nationals. But let's be honest, the Mets are in the same boat as the Nationals right now, so it doesn't really make you feel that much better. But it is nice to see them finally beat a team down, right?
Yeah, it does. If it's even possible, I can feel calm during the game, like during even with a big lead, and I really can't feel calm even with a big lead. And I just hope they don't ruin this great outing by Severino, who's looks like on pace to have a comeback player of the year award, or should be in the run, or definitely should be in the running for that award.
Almost at the halfway point, Dan, I agree with you. He's definitely in the running for that award right now. But we got a lot to get to the Mets. We'll get to them in a little bit right now, as they hold the 9-0 lead heading into the later stages of the game. We'll keep everybody updated with the score as we're playing right now. It's the top of the 8th. Mets are up 9-0 on the Nationals. So if they blow this one, it'll definitely make the headlines tomorrow. We'll be talking about that too. But let's start things off, unfortunately, where me and you left things on Sunday afternoon. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you saw our reaction the following day after just a tough loss. If you're a Rangers fan, my heart is really still broken over it. It's been tough to get over. The Rangers end up losing 2-1, Game 6, the Eastern Conference Final. The Florida Panthers move on and advance to the Stanley Cup Final as Eastern Conference champion for the second consecutive year. Shockingly, in my opinion, the Edmonton Oilers finished off the Dallas Stars on the Western bracket of the conference finals, and it'll end up being an Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers Stanley Cup final. So it'll either be the Oilers winning their first championship since Mark Messier was there back in 1990, or it'll be the Florida Panthers winning their first championship ever in the history of their franchise. It'll be the third time the team has advanced to the Cup final. 1996, last year, and this year. So, Dan, before we get into the Rangers and our feelings, as bad as they are for what transpired over last weekend, what is your thoughts on this Cup final matchup, and who do you think comes out on top?
Well, for one thing, I want to bring up a little fact. I think this might be the furthest distance to Stanley Cup Finals wise between the two teams.
It's not a bad point. I think you're probably right about that.
Yeah. At least I heard that somewhere in a Facebook post. This one, I expect this one could go to Game 6 or 7.
Yeah, to be honest, as a Rangers fan, when the Rangers were still alive, my preference to play out of the two teams was Edmonton. But look, I want to give Edmonton a lot of credit, man. They've played great. They have, I think the number was that they'd killed off 29 consecutive power plays. I mean, look, if you've seen anything of the Edmonton Oilers and the Leon Draisaitl's and the Connor McDavid's and that whole team and their whole deal over the last few years, their forte was not playing defense. I mean, let's be honest. We would know as Ranger fans when we were going into Edmonton, that had all the makings of a 5-4 game, a 6-5 game, something along those lines where you knew there was going to be a lot of goals scored, for the what's it called in that game because the Oilers didn't prioritize defense. Well, I got to give credit to head coach Chris Knobloch, who, by the way, was the New York Rangers AHL affiliate head coach and is a fantastic coach. And from what I heard, was in the running to get the Rangers job last year before they hired Peter Laviolette. And look, that wouldn't have blown people away at the time, but look what this guy has done, man, with this team that nobody really – I mean, they have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. They might have the second best player in the world in Leon Draisaitl. If he's not the second, he's right there. And they never could do anything. I think they might have gotten to one conference final, if that, but it was never really a good showing. They are the Western Conference champions right now for the first time in 34 years, and Chris Knobloch took over for the first time in his NHL career as a head coach, and with this team in 69 games, went 46-18 in the regular season. He took over, by the way. It wasn't a full season, obviously. It's only 69 games, so he didn't even coach the last 13 games or the first 13 games. So he could have easily won 50 games. He's 12-6 in the playoffs right now through the 18 games they've played. You can't draw it up any better for the beginning of Chris Knobloch's coaching career, could you, Dan?
No, you can't draw it up any better, and I expect they have a real shot to win this Stanley Cup final, and potentially vindicate Connor McDavid's career potentially, and having that one thing that caps it off, the championship ring.
Exactly, Dan. Now let me ask you, this is a two-part question. A, who are you rooting for in this series? And B, who do you think will win this series?
I'm just secretly hoping Edmonton wins this. I don't want to see the Panthers win a championship. Oh, dumb front runner fan base.
I'm with you too, actually. And look, I'm kind of torn because I've always been one of those guys. I love the fact that Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 1993, a year before the New York Rangers won their last Stanley Cup. The Montreal Canadiens won in 93 over the LA Kings, and that was the last time a Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup. So it's been a big thorn in their side for over 30 years now, or just about 30 years, that they haven't won a cup. So I always liked that. I liked rubbing it in Canada's face. Right? But I do kind of have to agree with you that, I don't want to see Florida win either.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. Normally, I'd rather a team in a U.S. city win the cup, but I don't want to see the team we lost to we got eliminated by win the cup.
Yeah.
That just adds salt to the wound.
Yeah, especially an unlikable, dirty team like the Florida Panthers. And look, it was one thing to lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning, which sucked 2 years ago. That was awful, but at least you could kind of take solace in the fact that, hey, this is a championship team. They've been here before. They've done this before, and they just play the game the way it's supposed to be played. They're so overtly skilled that they didn't have to be dirty. The Florida Panthers are a dirty team. They take pride in being a dirty team, actually. I don't want to see that team win a championship.
Yeah, exactly. Plus that it just every hockey season it's annoyed me the last couple of playoff runs. For a couple of playoff runs, we've been eliminated in the conference finals by a team in Florida. It's just I'm just so sick of it.
It's true. I hear you, man. I'm with you. I totally agree with that sentiment. I'm sick of losing to teams from Florida. It's about time we put that shit state in our rearview mirror. Even though I do like Florida, but
I do like them. But
from a sports perspective,
but from a sports perspective, I'm sick of losing to them in Atlanta. I just feel like some of my worst sports memories were against teams from Florida, including the 07 and 08 with the Mets, the last game of the season.
You read my mind, man. It's exactly what I was thinking too.
One win short. That just really hurt. Even hurt it more because both years. I still have those would have been playoff tickets. That it was like one game of from each round. I still have one of those. It's like hurt seeing those tickets. Not only the first round, but the ones that all the way. Even the ones that say 2008 World Series. I still got these would have been tickets because I had those were 2 years. Those were during the years I had my partial plan, and when I had a partial plan with the Mets. You included one game of each round as a playoff, and they had already sent the tickets were already sent to me, and they were automatic refund tickets. Where the reason I still have them in my possession is I didn't have to do any returns. If they didn't make it, those tickets were automatically refunded to the card they were purchased on. They were automatic refunds. So I still have these in my possession still.
Yeah. Well, I mean. Look, unfortunately, that didn't work out for the Mets. It didn't work out for the Rangers this year. And, the one thing that's inevitable when you come off a long playoff run is that guys are going to get banged up, guys are going to get beat up. And I don't want to hear Rangers fans using this as an excuse. It came out that obviously we knew Jimmy Vesey was out, but apparently Jacob Trouba had a broken foot, and from the way he described it, or it was either a foot or an ankle, but it was, as they say in hockey, a lower body injury where he got, I think he said it was on a hit that took him out in the regular season for 10 games. Remember that at the end of February, beginning of March, where
I remember
Zach
that.
Jones. Yeah, where Zach Jones filled in for him, and Zach Jones played very well. But Trouba said that on the hit that injured him, he had about a walnut size, maybe a little bit bigger than that, or a little bit bigger than this, right around here, a walnut sized chunk of his ankle that broke off, basically, that he had to be surgically repaired. So, look, there was a lot of troubling things that we saw from Jacob Trouba in the playoffs. He was over penalized. And look, me and you bitched about the refs a lot, and rightfully so in a lot of the circumstances. But Jacob Trouba, a lot of the penalties he got called for were legit penalties. So, I can't say it's the refs. I can't say it's the injuries, even though I'm sure the injuries did play a role in his downward spiral of play. But the thing is, when you're the captain of the team and you're making in hockey $8 million a year is a lot of freaking money, especially when the top player in the league is only getting paid about 14 or something like that, 14 and a half. So, $8 million for a defenseman that scored 3 goals, had 22 points this year, and missed a bunch of time and wasn't as effective as they needed him to be in the playoffs is a big hit. So as much as I sympathize with him for getting hurt and everything and toughing it out, being in there for his team, man, I can't give him the excuse that just because he got hurt, I could excuse his terrible play in the postseason, because he was one of the big reasons why the Rangers aren't playing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. He was one of the big reasons why I'm clean shaven today since the last time any of you non-Patreon subscribers saw me.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. So look, I want to give the Rangers the benefit of the doubt. I appreciate the grit and the guts that they have, because those guys do. You don't get to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final by mistake. It's deflating when you lose, and it feels like you didn't accomplish anything because you were so close to the goal for the second time in 3 years. As you saw on the screen before, they get eliminated in Game 6 against Tampa Bay 2 years ago. Now they get eliminated in Game 6 against the Florida Panthers this year. So things not going well in Game 6 for the Rangers, at least. But there was a lot of things that we have to consider. I mean, obviously, we talked about the injuries now, and another thing is, what do you do about the core? Do you tweak the core? What do you think about it? I mean, I think Chris Kreider, especially with that hat trick against the Carolina Hurricanes that sealed that series, I don't think Kreider's going anywhere, and nor do I think he should. Kreider struggled in the championship in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Panthers, but he was so effective all postseason and for most of the year. I can't, say that I want to run Kreider out of town. And I don't know, man. I'm getting a little, as much as I like Zibanejad and Panarin, the disappearing acts that those guys have in the postseason is just incredible to me. Now, I know Panarin kind of saved face and scored a goal in the last minute of regulation, basically, of the season to make a 2-0 loss, a 2-1 loss feel a little bit better. But, I mean, the guy was completely ineffective for most of that series. He turned the puck over an insane amount of times. And, look, I don't want to gang up on Zibanejad either, but, man, Mika, 3 goals? 3 goals? They played 16 or 17 playoff games, and he scored 3 goals? This is a guy who 2 years ago, when they played 20 playoff games, he scored 10. And he was one of the most effective players in the entire postseason that year. And look, I know he was racking up some assists. He still ended up with about 16 points in 16 games or whatever. 3 goals, 13 assists. But, man, you got a guy like Mika Zibanejad, who's supposed to be a point-a-game player, and he's supposed to be a 30 or 40 goal scorer, and he's supposed to show up for you in the postseason. When he doesn't, man, that changes the equation, right?
Yeah. I just feel like those 3 are probably going to be back next year.
But so what do you think? Do they tweak? Because, I mean, right now we're looking at the core. Do they tweak the core? Do they what's it called? Are they going to bring somebody else in? Is it me and you on our Patreon show, we discussed a guy like Gunsel, Jake Gunsel, who we were both talking about how that kind of blew up in the Rangers' face, not trading their first round pick and bringing him in. And how he would have impacted their postseason run and maybe freed up guys like Zibanejad from the constant pressure he had on him. So, what do you think?
I feel like they're going to bring in a Jay Gunsel. Also, I feel like the Rangers are probably going to end up trading Jacob Trouba, I feel like.
You think they're going to trade Trouba? So, I mean, that would be really interesting because then if you really think about it, the odds of Gustafsson coming back are low, in my opinion, because he was only on a 1-year deal at the veteran minimum of $800K. So I highly doubt Gustafsson's coming back. And if you get rid of Trouba too, that means that now you have to re-sign Keandre Miller, who, by the way, is a restricted free agent. You have to figure out what you're doing with, the other guys like Lindgren also does need an extension. So that's another big guy they have to figure out. He's not an unrestricted free agent. He is restricted, but that is still a problem. He's going to be coming up from a $3 million salary to a little bit higher than that, probably in the 4 or 5 range. So the Rangers have a lot of options to weigh. And the question I ask you, Dan, too, is I wonder what they could get back for Trouba. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have any value. He does have value, but I don't know. Are you going to get a first-round pick back for him? I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure you're going to get a first-round pick. You're probably going to get a second or a third round draft pick for him.
But if that's the case, then it's just a pure salary dump. And to only bring to get rid of your captain for a second-round pick and a team that went to Game 6 of the conference finals, I feel like if you're going to trade Trouba, it has to be for a more impactful deal than that. You just can't dump your captain for a guy, that isn't even going to be drafted for another year or two, or just a second-round draft. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I agree with you, and in video game, terms, if you're thinking about it like playing NHL, yeah, sure, I did dump $8 million. Here's it is. But the fact is that the guys on this team are the ones that voted for him to be captain. So they all like him, and there's an appreciation for Jacob Trouba in that room. And if you get to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final and turn around and trade your captain for a second-round draft pick, that sends a bad message to all the players in that room.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe they might not bring Kakko, might be the one that might not be back next year, I feel like.
Yeah, no, Kakko I could see too. Kakko, I saw his exit interview and them talking with him about, how Peter Laviolette said he was going to play on the top line, and that Peter Laviolette, and he wasn't bitching either. He was saying that Laviolette gave him the chance and he didn't cash in. So it was his fault that he got taken off that top line, which I'm glad to see his accountability in that. But the fact of the matter is that the guy played in, 60 or 70 games? I know he missed a few, but I'm going to say he played in at least 60 games. He only scored 13 goals. And then he played another 16 or 17 playoff games, and he only scored 1 goal. And that goal came on a fluke play in the first round against the Capitals in the sweep. So he did not have another impactful play for the rest of the postseason. And that was like either Game 2 or Game 3. So, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Kakko. Oh, man, I really am pulling for him. And I hope that he finds a way to break out next season. But, much like Lafreniere did this year. But I don't know, man. I kind of agree with you. I think that the writing might be on the wall for Kakko to be out of here.
Yeah, I feel like another one that could surprisingly, I feel could be a surprise that people are probably going to overlook. Probably good chance Tavares could be available, and we could be seeing him as a Ranger.
Yeah, well, for our Patreon subscribers, they saw me and you talk about this on Sunday's show. But yeah, there's a possibility that, in my mind, Toronto is definitely a team to target right now. I would be looking all over Toronto's roster, licking my chops, for guys like Tavares, for guys like Mitch Marner, or any of the high-end quality guys like that, that you could stick on this roster. I definitely agree with you on that, Dan. And I think, that it's possible that we could definitely see some kind of action like that, because I think, too, the Rangers cannot go into, me and you talking about the whole Gunsel thing throughout the playoffs and everything, and how he would have impacted the Rangers' top line. The Rangers have run so many guys on that top line. Let's not forget Game 6, they threw Wenberg out there. They had Kakko out there at some point, Jack Roslovic, Jimmy Vesey. I mean, there have been so many guys just this year on that top line alone. It's insane. And you need to have not only consistency, but not a journeyman veteran or whatever the deal is playing that top right line. You need a difference-making player where, in the postseason specifically, the other guys who's matched up against the Rangers' top line in Kreider, Zibanejad, and whoever the right wing is, that top line cannot say, "Oh, we don't got to worry about the guy in the right wing," because who cares about Jack Roslovic? Who cares about Alex Wenberg? They're not as good as Zibanejad or Kreider, so we focus our defense on shutting down Zibanejad and Kreider. That has been the key to the postseason. And if you look at Panarin, as much as I bitch about Panarin and the struggles he had in the postseason, Alexis Lafreniere had his incredible postseason because the other teams were trying to shut down Panarin and Trocheck. They didn't respect Lafreniere. So Lafreniere went out there and scored 8 goals this postseason because they couldn't stop him, because the respect was being paid to the other two guys. I feel like that would be the same thing if the Rangers put a top-end guy like a Gunsel, like a Mitch Marner. Who knows how he would fit in the lineup? A Tavares would probably be a center, but somebody of that ilk on the right line would make all the difference in the world, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. I feel it would make us pretty much a cup or bust kind of team.
And we already are, right?
Yep, we already are.
Yeah.
I feel this off season it's got to be a key off season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this has to be, like me and you discussed, if you want to hear our inside thoughts on Patreon, patreon.com/bestseatsinhouse podcast. Me and Dan had a really great conversation in our morning session, and morning MOURNING, not MORNING. It's because we were mourning this Rangers season, because of how great it was running up to it. But then, they have to be all in, like you just said. We compared it, as I lose my co-host here, Bo. I'm sure he'll be back in a sec. But, we compared it to the Jets. And there we go. Bobo rejoins us right here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. And so now, you just figured that out. Heard a couple of a little background noise. But there we go.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you perfect. Yep. So what me and Dan were comparing it to was the Jets, and how the Jets have been all in this offseason, signing a Tyron Smith for left tackle, bring in a wide receiver like Mike Williams from the Chargers, and trading for a great defensive player like Hassan Reddick. All three of those moves are all-in teams, all-in moves by a team that seriously considers themselves a championship contender. And for the Rangers, it has to be the same thing. We have to see a couple of moves, maybe a high end for a top line guy like me and you've discussed, maybe for a defenseman if they're looking to replace a guy like Trouba or Gustafsson. But there has to be a high-end, all-in move made for this Rangers in the offseason, because they can't stand pat. If you stand pat, you're standing with your hands in your pockets while everybody else is flying all around you. there's a lot of really talented teams in the National Hockey League, and your window can slam shut at any given notice. So the Rangers really have to go out there and have an impressive offseason. And in my opinion, I don't want to see them making that pick in the dome, me and you were talking about in Vegas. I want to see them trading that pick for a guy that's going to have an impact on the roster next year.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see that. I don't even give a damn about that. I don't even give a damn about that Sphere in Las Vegas.
Yeah, screw the Sphere. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So one more thing on the Rangers before we move on. We spent a lot of time on the Rangers today. We got a little bit of baseball to close out the show right now. As just to check in right now, the Mets did lose the shutout, but it is 9-1. That's the final right now. Literally just went final. Mets win 9-1.
Put it in the books.
Put it in the books. There you go, buddy. So,
yep, exactly.
Big victory there for the Mets. 3 straight wins over the Nationals. So a nice sweep. Makes it feel a little bit better. But just to wrap up on the Rangers before we move on to the Mets, let's see, Dan. I mean, what can you say about Igor Shesterkin? The guy is the best goalie in the world, and he is the reason. Much like if we're going to keep comparing to the Jets, much like Aaron Rodgers is the reason the Jets have to be all in because you want to put that guy in the best position to succeed. The Rangers have to be all in because they have the best goalie in the world right now. You don't want to waste him, right?
Yeah, exactly. They have to go be all in. They have to do this. I don't want to see Igor have to suffer the same fate of his predecessor.
Yeah, and that's on the table if the Rangers, just like they did with Henrik Lundqvist, stand around, say, oh, well, we have a really great goalie. And even though they did do some things where they did, they brought in a guy like Gabrick, and that, he had a couple of good regular seasons, but it never came together until in the playoffs until he went to the freaking Kings and beat us in the Cup final, which I'll never forgive him for. And, then they brought in a guy like Rick Nash, and Rick Nash, once again, was a pretty good regular season Ranger, but just in the postseason, just couldn't get it done. And now it looks like another guy the Rangers brought in, Artemi Panarin. Fantastic regular season Ranger. A little bit less than in the playoffs. So, I don't know, Dan. That's what I'm saying when I mean the Rangers have to be all in. I want to see them bring in a difference maker to make Igor's life easier next year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping they do it. Just hoping. I'm going to be keeping a good eye on that. Hitting the refresh button probably quite a bit on the SNY Twitter page.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Following those guys in the Rangers beat, like our good friend Jim Cerny, who joined us right after the Rangers trade deadline. We had former New York Rangers .com reporter and current Forever Blue Shirts reporter, Jim Cerny. He was awesome. Please follow Jim on Twitter at Jim Cerny, JimCerny. Check him out. He's always got great stuff. Also, the great Vincent Mercogliano is another great guy you could find. Colin Stevenson. I know all the names, and I'm sure me and you will be checking their statuses quite frequently this offseason. One more thing I did want to shine a light on with Igor, man, is that he goes out there and in 16 games this postseason, he went 10-6 with a .926 save percentage and a .234 goals against. I mean, does it get any better than that? How the heck did the Rangers not back this guy up again?
Yeah, it just surprised me that when I look at that kind of stats he put in a postseason, it just amazed me that we didn't win the Cup with those numbers.
Yeah, it felt like a Cup year, man. It did.
Yeah,
it really did.
It just really felt like a Cup year. It just felt like inevitable. I was this close. If it would have got Game 7, I was this close. I didn't pull the trigger on it. I was close to buying an inflatable Stanley Cup for us to just walk around scary because I didn't know how close we were going to get we were going to actually get the real thing. I might buy it anyway because I think it's a cool item, that inflatable. But I was this close to us to us of a picture of us holding that of an inflatable Stanley Cup after we probably watched it in the same room. We were that close to getting to the Cup Finals. I was talking to someone. I was talking to the great Stevie Lou to set up potentially us watching if we were one win away from winning the Cup, we were going to watch it at his place. So we were going to set up base to do an episode of us to capture that live shot of us watching it, and hopefully we'll get to do that soon enough. Get to have that live shot of us.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to plan on doing that next year. Unfortunately, it's not going to be this season. I know we came really close. Would have been awesome to do that with the great Stevie Lou. Shout out to the great Stevie Lou again, by the way. That guy's the best. Always love Stevie Lou. But yeah, man. Also, too, it just, like we were saying, and I did want to mention that 2 years ago when the Rangers went on their run and lost to Tampa Bay, it almost felt like a fitting end, as hard as it was to swallow because they were up 2-0. It almost felt like a fitting end because that season came out of nowhere. The Rangers went from, still a rebuilding team to a 50-win dynamo plowing through the playoffs and almost taking down the defending Stanley Cup champions. That turnaround was pretty quick. And as great as it was, and hard as it was to watch them lose that series, it almost felt like it made sense. Things usually don't turn around that quickly. On the other hand, this year felt like 2015, when, in my opinion, the Rangers had the Stanley Cup in their grasp. It was right there, and they just let it slip through their fingers. And that's what this feels like to me this year.
Yeah, this one felt like the worst pain I felt like since maybe the 2006 NLCS with the Mets that year.
Yep. Yeah, definitely, because
another year that
Mets
felt like the whole year, a championship year, to lose like that. That's what this felt like.
Yeah, the 2006 Mets, I agree, also felt like they had the championship in the palm of their hands and just let it slip through. And you wouldn't know anything about this as a Giants fan, but it also felt like that to me in the 2009 AFC Championship game with the Jets, when the Jets were up 17-6 at halftime on Peyton Manning and then shit the bed in the second half to lose 31-17 to Peyton Manning. Shut out 25-0 in the second half. So that felt like a championship slipping through my fingers too, but it happens to us all the time. New York now is in one of its longest prolonged championship list streaks in the history of our city. So
yeah, to put into context how bad this is gone. I mean, there's already enough. If there wasn't enough reasons to complain about the Bill de Blasio during his administration, I think he might be the first mayor in the history of New York to not have a single championship in the Big Four sports league during his administration, if I'm correct.
Who are you talking about? De Blasio?
Yeah, if I'm correct.
You might be right about that.
That's the first. I think that might be the first time ever that I've ever seen that's ever happened. I haven't looked up that stat to see like how looked up every mayor during the time. I guess we'll have to go all the way back. I guess maybe Major League Baseball might be the oldest of the Big Four. Going all the way back to the first year of Major League Baseball to track when was the last time you saw a mayor during his entire administration not a single championship in the Big Four?
It's a good question. It's a good question, actually. We'll have to look into that. And the next time we're on, I'll see if I can find an answer for you. But that's a damn good question, and I love that stat. You're right. It makes a lot of sense. So not only did our mayor suck, but our our championship teams sucked. Although the Mets did get close. The Mets were the closest of any of the other teams as they got to the World Series. Ended up losing.
Yeah, I think the only championships that happened during his administration I meant the championship round. You had the Mets getting to the 2015 World Series. You also had the Rangers getting to that those Cup Finals in 2014.
That's true. That's true too. Yeah, I forgot when De Blasio's term started, but you're right. I guess that would have encompassed that too. So
But there wasn't a single trip for any of the Big Four down the Canyon of Heroes during his administration.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Dan, can you fix your mic? We're getting a lot of feedback.
All right, are you able to hear me better?
It still sounds pretty feedbacky.
All right. How about now? Is it better?
Nope.
Let's see. How about now?
I don't know why it used to sound so good. I don't understand why it sounds bad anymore. We'll have to figure this out. I'm gonna see if I can get something else because I don't know, that microphone is just not working the way it used to. We're getting a lot of feedback.
I don't know. Did it sound like this earlier?
Yeah, it kind of did a little earlier, but not when we first started using it. But whatever, it's no big deal. We'll wrap up. We're coming down to the final segment now anyway. Let's wrap up with a little baseball here, Dan. As obviously the Mets won today in big fashion. And I wrote this before the game went final. But Mets blow out the Nationals, end up winning 9-1. They went for the sweep and they got it. But I added in there, but who cares really? Because to be honest, look, the season's over. I hate to say it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. The season's over. They're done. This what are they? 27-35. This team is garbage. They're going nowhere. I don't like the manager. I don't like the GM, the GM, or the president of baseball ops, whatever you want to call him, David Stearns. I'm sick of the owner's face. I'm sick of everybody having to do with this team right now. And I can't take it, man. I can't even subject myself to watch this team. I have always, my entire life, I'm one of those guys, if you cut my vein, orange and blue pour out of my veins. That's how much I love the Mets. Even as mad as I am, I still get my Mets shirt on, But I can't even bring myself to watch a lot of these Met games this year. It's like Chinese water torture, just having to watch the same thing over and over and over again. 9 times out of 10, they can't hit. When they can hit, they can't pitch. When they can pitch, the bullpen blows it. I can't take this team, and I'm emotionally trying to distance myself from them. How are you dealing with this team this year, Dan?
I don't know. It's just making me upset. Even seeing it even more during the off-season, I feared it. And I'm really seeing it even more and more that David Stearns made a big mistake the offseason. Even bringing in a manager that doesn't seem like a manager for a contending team. It seems like a tanking kind of manager. And bringing nothing, no pitching, starting and bullpen. There was no pitching on this team. He brought in
you know what? It's
nothing.
Luis Rojas all over again. This guy, and look, I don't want to knock Carlos Mendoza because, look, to be honest, it's kind of like Robert Saleh with the Jets, where we don't really know what kind of coach he is because they've given him such shitty teams. And look, this is a shitty team, so it's not all on Carlos Mendoza. But Carlos Mendoza feels like the type of you need a manager that makes a difference. We had one for 2 years in Buck Showalter, but the Mets just decided, who needs a really great future Hall of Fame manager? Let's get rid of him and bring in a guy that's never done it before because David Stearns wants his own guy. This guy is Luis Rojas all over again. We went from Luis Rojas, who's a bad manager, to Buck Showalter, who's a really good manager, back to Luis Rojas 2.0 in this guy Mendoza.
Yeah, and I just feared it from the beginning, bringing in David Stearns. I didn't trust this guy, some guy with a laptop and a Harvard degree. You know who what kind of person they need to bring him in the GM? Someone that's been around baseball. Someone that I feel good qualification for a GM. They've had to at least play baseball in college. At least in college.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest, though. David Stearns has been around baseball. He hasn't played, like you said, but he has been around. He was a Mets intern going all the way back to 2008. And then he's had multiple jobs with a lot of success after that, too. He not only did he help turn the Brewers around, he helped turn the Diamondbacks around. He was I forget the other team he was with, but he helped turn them around too, a little bit. So, look, I don't want to say, because I got to be honest, I had no problem with the Mets bringing in David Stearns. I just thought that David Stearns would take his knowledge of how to find bargains on guys and his scouting ability and stuff like that and apply it to a big market team. I didn't think that he was going to come in and turn the Mets into the East Coast, Milwaukee Brewers, but minus a whole bunch of talent. You know what I mean? Like, he's got them. The Mets right now are cruising for a 75-win year. And that's exactly what we said all offseason. Me and you aren't the type of people that drank the Kool-Aid, which there are a lot of Met fans out there that can't believe how bad they've been. The writing was on the wall all offseason.
Yeah, and I feel like they were telling us they were tanking this year. I noticed at the Queens Baseball Convention, they didn't bring like a single rep from the Mets or anything at the Queens Baseball Convention. No wonder. They knew. They knew. It's like, this is the first time at a Queens Baseball Convention I really didn't see anything, or I didn't feel like anything that there was a lot of buzz about.
Yeah, I still personally feel that they tanked this season for one of the big reasons. And I do think they intentionally tanked this season. Both of these guys can say whatever the hell they want. You don't field this garbage team and think to yourself, oh, we could win 90 games and compete for a playoff spot. Nope, you don't do that. If you have two brain cells in your head, you know that this team wasn't going to compete. Me and you might, be big fans of baseball, but we don't work in the game. And even we could sit there and look at this team and say, they're not going anywhere. What are you guys doing? When's the big splash going to happen? Oh, Adrian Hauser. Oh, great. Him and his 7 ERA look awesome this year. How about Tyrone Taylor? Wow, 230 off the bench? Man, who could have done that? It's not like they could have brought up a minor leaguer to do the exact same freaking thing. All these guys they brought in, it's just garbage after garbage, recycled garbage. I just can't take it. And this is what they're doing. And then they want you to not only invest your time, but invest your money as well. And for me, I'm one of those people. I'm sorry, Mets. You're not getting my money this year. I'm not going to give one penny to the New York Mets. I'm on strike. And especially if they trade Pete Alonso. If they don't trade Pete Alonso at the deadline, there's a chance, like last year when me and you went to the Pirates game, there's in August, there's a chance I'll go to the to Citi Field with you, and me and you will do some kind of show there or whatever, and we'll figure something out again. But if Pete Alonso is gone, and believe me, he will be on July 31st, because that's what this was all about. They want to wipe the roster clean and start and rebuild it in David Stearns' image. And Pete Alonso apparently doesn't fit into that image. So they're going to trade him, and the Mets will not get one penny from me this season. I usually go to spring training. I saw the writing on the wall. 2024, I didn't go. And now 2024, if they're going to be trading all these guys around too, you won't be seeing me at Citi Field.
I can tell you, I hope Steve Cohen somehow doesn't make the same mistake that was made in 1977. If Pete Alonso gets traded, it will be the worst tragedy since 1977. I don't want to see this generation, our generation, have to go through this.
Yep, and all these idiots that are sitting here online that are so mad at Pete Alonso, and you wouldn't believe there's a lot of Met fans that are rooting for Pete Alonso to get traded. They're going to be the same idiots 2 years from now saying, gee, if the Mets only had a power hitter in the middle of their lineup, boy, things would be different. the Mets would have a pretty damn good team. And instead, we're going to see Pete Alonso hitting big, long home runs for a different team. And just like it kills us when we see all these other guys that the Mets cast off, like Travis d'Arnaud, who guys like me were screaming until the last second. Well, look, now he murders the Mets every chance he's got. He's got a World Series ring in his back pocket, and he's one of the best catchers in baseball. Thank you very much, Brody Van Wagenen. So, when you look at guys like that, and there are a bunch of examples of that, we're going to see guys that should be on the New York Mets excelling for other teams, and Pete Alonso being one of those guys is just going to chip away at my soul.
Yeah, exactly. That one would just hurt. I've heard the stories about 77. This one would hurt even more. I pretty much can tell you, if Pete Alonso is traded, David Stearns, no doubt about it, will be run out of town.
I don't think so. I think us Met fans might try, but Steve Cohen ain't going to let that happen. He just signed David Stearns to a $10 million a year deal. $10 million. This guy, just think about that. He's getting paid $10 million this year for what he did to the Mets. Give me a fucking break. I can't take it. I can't take it, man. But look, let's move on to we got to pick up the pace a little bit here. But I do want to touch on a couple of bright spots that we've seen from the last couple of days from the Mets. They brought in Luis Torrens, who was playing for the Yankees most of the year in the minor leagues, and they brought up from their own minor leagues Jose Iglesias. And Iglesias is a guy that's had success at major league level over the last couple of years in his career. Torrens has kind of been a journeyman to this point, but it's nice to see the spark that, even though this team is trash, not going anywhere, it's nice to see a spark from these two guys, because I got to tell you, I love Jeff McNeil. I have sung the praises of Jeff McNeil, but Jeff McNeil, if he's hitting 220, 230, 240, even 250, Jeff McNeil is useless. Useless. Jeff McNeil has to be hitting 290, 300, higher than that to make his non-extra base hit power a valuable thing on this team. Him hitting 220 or 230, that means absolutely nothing, especially he's getting paid $13 million a year to do that. And the other thing to see a guy like Iglesias coming in and pick up where McNeil's left off.
Yeah, exactly. And it just surprised me that McNeil, why is he trying to hit everything in the air too much?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a guy like that, it's like Willie Mays from Major League. He should, every time he hits the ball in the air, they should make him get down and do push-ups.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to see that. Also, I just feel like we were struggling in the middle infielder department thanks to that whole debacle of Ronnie Mauricio getting hurt.
Which was another bad decision by the Mets. This was a guy that was on their Major League roster at the end of last season, and they let him go play in the Dominican series. I understand letting minor leaguers play in that. I understand letting guys coming back off injury rehab or something like that play in that. But you have a guy that was primed and ready to be on your roster. What the hell is he playing in the Dominican series for?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, come on, don't corner this end. I may have been cursing like crazy when I saw my alerts on the MLB app. Hearing that, I was like, oh. It's a miracle my phone survived that.
Dan, you got to fix that microphone again. It's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's a miracle my phone survived that whole thing.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's a miracle. Probably also thanks to this whole casing I got my phone in. I mean, I haven't once cracked the screen.
Mm-hmm. Well,
as what happened with the previous phone, no cracked screen at all. So
yeah, very true. Very true.
But I was upset when I heard that alert. Again, of course, this only happens to us.
Yeah, well, you can thank the World Baseball Classic for killing last season and destroying the career of Edwin Diaz, as I don't believe he'll ever be the same pitcher again. And same thing with now Ronnie Mauricio, who's now going to have a year and a half taken off his career for another international competition that a New York Met had no business being in. So thank you very much for the decision makers of the New York Mets. We appreciate it. Let's keep it rolling along here, Dan, right now, as I want to change the page for a tale of two cities. Right now, we're going to turn the page to the Yankees, but just look at what direction both teams are going in the last month, as the Mets in May went 9-19, torpedoed their season, and made sure by June 1st they were irrelevant, and their fans had nothing to look forward to. Thanks, Mets. Thanks, Steve Cohen. But the Yankees, on the other hand, who basically made one move this offseason, and that was bringing in, actually, let's give him credit for Marcus Stroman as well, who's been okay. But the big move was Juan Soto, and it's paid off, man. Soto has been great since day one, and the Yankees over the 28 games they played in May went 21-7. Now, Dan, if that wasn't good enough, look at this too. I grabbed this this image right here. Let's see it, yes, because it is just so absurd. Look at these numbers, man. I mean, absolutely crazy when you see Aaron Judge over the last 34 games, 381, 17 home runs, and he's averaging an RBI a game, 34 RBIs in 34 games. Juan Soto, yeah, he doesn't have the home runs and the RBIs Judge does at with an 8-19, which is still pretty damn good over his last 15. But he's only hitting about 386 over that time period too. These guys have hit 33 and 38 home runs this season in Yankee wins. Man, these guys are about as good as the old M&M boys with Mantle and Maris back in the early '60s, as for the Bronx Bombers that we grew up with and that we know and that we have always heard about. So, man, you got to give credit to these guys for what they're doing.
Yeah, I gotta give credit to that. Of course, Aaron Judge. I feel like we expected that. Soto, it was a big question that whole contract. Is he going to live up to this whole thing? He's playing for a contract year. He's living up to that. He's probably getting a big payday. And it's just seeing that, unfortunately, being in the city of two teams, and it's just it's the fact having to see all the Yankee fans bragging about it hurts the most.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, Dan. You're absolutely right. So it does suck seeing the Yankee fans enjoy it so much. But you know what, though, too? I have heard fans trying to run down the Yankees' success. And look, I'm not a Yankee fan. I don't like the Yankees. I hate the Yankees, as a matter of fact. It's in my blood to hate the Yankees. But I am a fair baseball fan. And I can call it right down the middle as much as I don't want to. And I've heard people smearing the Yankees' recent success. Oh, they're just beating the crap out of bad teams. Their pitching stinks. It's all about the offense. And that could not be further from the truth. The Yankees have been one of the best pitching baseball teams in the entire league, National League and American League. This team, and it all really has been done without Garrett Cole, their ace. Isn't that crazy? And the guy they brought in to replace him, Luis Gil, who nobody thought anything about, is breaking records left and right. Dan, you got to hear what this kid has done, because I was looking into it and I really couldn't believe it when I heard these numbers. So Luis Gil is turning heads, man. He's the first pitcher in Yankees history with 7 straight starts of 6 innings plus and 1 run or less at any point in their career. He's the 5th pitcher in the history of the AL to do it since 1920, and the only other one to have a streak anywhere close to this is Hall of Famer, former New York Giant Christy Mathewson, holds the record with 8 that he did in his rookie year of 1901. And it was quite a different game played at that time. And if you think I'm done, I'm not. It keeps going. Look at this. Gill is the second rookie ever, tied with Fernando Valenzuela from his record-breaking 1981 rookie campaign, where he and the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series and he took home Rookie of the Year to boot, to win. He's the second rookie ever to win his first 7 starts, tied with Valenzuela. And if you thought it was over at that point, ladies and gentlemen, you are mistaken, because he's the first pitcher in Major League history in the modern era, going back to 1901. So all the 1800 stats don't count in this one. But he's the first pitcher in baseball history to have allowed 5 hits or fewer in his first 7 starts, too. So now you do have to, count the fact that he's only throwing 6 or 7 innings, as opposed to the guys back in the day that used to throw a complete game every time out for the most part. But, Dan, when you hear those stats that I just rattled off there, no matter what context you want to put it in, it's freaking impressive.
Yeah, that is. I gotta tip my hat to that. That is impressive stats. See that?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give this kid credit. And let's be honest, you know what's also crazy, too? Luis Gil is right now, you could probably say, in the American League, he's the Rookie of the Year frontrunner, I would say, at this point. I don't know if he's going to win it. It's still way too early to tell. But I would say if we're going to put, votes in for midway point or almost midway point Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil would, if not win it, he'd be right there. You know what's crazy about that? He's 120 days older than Juan Soto, who's been in the league for over 5-6 years already. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy how that works out.
That just shows how good Juan Soto was from such a young age. I mean, when he broke in the league at 19 and did what he did and has put up the numbers he has already, man, that just goes to show you how insane Juan Soto is, that this kid is just breaking in and he's still a young kid, and he somehow is older than Juan Soto, who has a batting title and a world championship under his belt.
Yeah, that is just shocking when seeing that.
Yeah. So I had to get that out there too. And one last thing before we wrap up here, Dan. I want to give credit to the Yankees too. We've been talking about it for a little bit, man. Yankees 43-19. They're a half game behind Philly, 44-19, for the best record in baseball. So I know it's a Met fan's nightmare seeing Yankees and Phillies at the top. The Mets weren't around in 1950 when these two teams met in the World Series, but they were around in 2009. And that's the last time these two teams met.
And that was
the third team. It could be the third time ever in the World Series this coming up fall.
Yeah, and like 2009, if that's the World Series matchup, I will not be watching because I couldn't stomach a Yankees Phillies World Series. I just said I ain't watching this.
I don't blame you.
I think I just read stuff what happened the next day, but I could not stomach seeing it as it was happening.
Yeah, especially the thing that really got under my skin too was, as much as we hated that Philly team, seeing Pedro Martinez pitch for the Phillies that postseason really pissed me off. It just made me sick watching him go out there after he signed for the Mets for big money and then never got to actually pitch in a playoff game for us. He got hurt right before 2006 and didn't help us one damn bit in 07 or 08. And now he's pitching in the playoffs for the Phillies and the World Series for the Phillies at Yankee Stadium. That drove me crazy. But, at least the Phillies lost. It sucked to see the Yankees win. But I'd rather have seen the Yankees won that series than saw the Phillies win back-to-back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But, yeah, it just hurt. It even hurt even more. Seeing pictures of Facebook from Yankee fans had to rub it in my face. I don't know directly what I mean, but sending me pictures from the parade. They were rubbing it in my face by sending me pictures from the parade.
Yeah, I hear you. I remember. I remember. I've been on the other side of every other parade that's happened in this city since 1994. So the last parade that I ever saw that I don't even remember because I was 7 years old,
Yeah,
and
it was '94, and the 12-year-old me was there
yeah,
when the
a
Rangers won the
7-year-old me
Stanley
was out
Cup.
there, and I don't even, I remember it from having seen the pictures and everything. But I mean, I was a little kid. I barely remember that, and it'd be nice to get another parade one of these years. I thought it might have been this year for the Rangers again, but unfortunately, just another kick to the gut.
Yep,
And yeah, Dan.
exactly. And I just feel like it's another year where the medics are saving by and our ladies have to act as sports fan suicide watch.
Yep, that's true. That's true, my friend. Unfortunately, that's the life we lead, rooting for the little the little brother teams on one side. I know you're a Giants and a Rangers fan too. I am a Rangers fan, so I at least root for one team that's not a little brother. But we do have that syndrome a lot, so let's hope we could shake it off one of these years. But Dan, I think with that, that's about going to wrap it up for us this week. We'll put a pin in this one. So Dan, before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure, you got my Twitter account, Bobo and ABK. You got my Instagram. I messed it up. I meant my Twitter account. Bobo103NYC is my Twitter account. Bobo71ABK, that's my Instagram account and Threads account. Also, my YouTube account, one word, Daniel Curlin, with you Patreon subscribers, and don't forget to subscribe to Patreon. You'll get early access whenever I post some stuff on YouTube. You'll be getting early access to that. Also, of course, subscribers, they get tracks by minute, which I'll be filming. I'll be filming some episodes tomorrow of the tracks by minute. It's a lot times. You guys get early access to that. And of course, don't forget, for $5, you also get early access for that Patreon subscription. You get early access to what you're watching right now. You get it one day early. All for the cost of a Metro card.
That's true. You get to watch us live on Patreon the night before as we record this live. So we appreciate everybody that's tuning in and catching it as we're doing it live here on Wednesday night. And so that's about going to do it for us today. Once again, I apologize for the audio, everybody. I don't know why the microphone is cutting out like that, but we're gonna have to.
I don't know. There might be a bunch of signal interference.
It's not signal interference. It's like it's feedback. It's like it sounds like you're in a wind tunnel. But
yeah, I don't know if it's the fan in the background.
I don't think it's the fan either. But I don't know. I mean, unless the fan's blowing in your ear. But
yeah, I don't think it's blowing in my ear, but it's in front of me.
Yeah. So no, exactly. So I don't think that's it. We're gonna have to figure it out. I'm gonna see if I can get you. We're gonna have to do something about that. But so we'll figure it out. Sorry about that, everybody. But we appreciate you tuning in, especially to the very end. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the support we get from everybody. Every little bit counts. We appreciate every view, every like, everything like that. So if you want to help us, even if you're not going to subscribe to the Patreon, which we get, everything right now is tight for everybody. So even $5 could be expensive. But if you go to our YouTube, give us a subscribe, give us a like. It helps us a lot with the algorithm and all that stuff. So we really appreciate everybody tuning in and taking their time to see what we're talking about today. So once again, for Robert Cramer, this is my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, everybody, and we'll catch you on Sunday on Patreon. But if not, we'll catch you next week once again. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.